Importers of petroleum products continue to struggle under the interest burden due to loans taken to finance the import of petrol and other refined petroleum products in Nigeria. Delays in the payment of subsidies have continued months after a series of probes into corruption surrounding the disbursement of fuel subsidies. And to examine the latest news moving Nigeria's oil and gas space, Luqman Agboola, oil and gas analyst at Diamond Bank, is standing by. Luqman, it's good to have you on our show. And I think it's an important point to make because when you look at some of these stocks on the stock exchange, not doing very well. If you look at their performance over the last 12 months, they're down about 13% compared to about 55% for the NSE. So your thoughts on the dynamics for that sector right now, because it seems to be a problem.
Yes, as you are aware, after the probe that was carried out last year, there has been a reduction in the quantity of allocation as well as the number of participants in that sector. You will recall that there has been a whole lot of investment that has gone into that sector, both by the big five as well as the indigenous companies that operate in that sector. Infrastructure, physical infrastructure that has gone into that sector. You can see that given the current situation and scenario, they have not been able to do as much business as they have been doing in the past as a result of the allocation. And of course, if you are not doing as much business, it means that your revenue is not up and profit is going to be affected. Right. And that will actually ultimately affect your profitability, ultimately.
Okay, but why do we continue to see these delays? Because you could justify the delays last year because of the probe, but the probe was ended months ago, so why do we continue to see delays?
Well, from what we are hearing, one of the reasons why there was delay was because the budget was not passed as at when it was supposed to have been done. Right. Having signed the budget into law, we hope that the backlog of subsidy payments that have been due for a very long time are going to be clear this time around. And I believe if that is done, we are going to see a whole lot of businesses, doing well again.
Okay, but what would you say to investors that are looking into that space on the stock market? They've done quite well this year. If you take a look at the likes of Oando and a few others, so that sector is up maybe about 20%. But going forward, given the context of the situation for that business sector right now, would you be recommending investors to be looking there?
Clearly, that's not where to look for investors right now because, as you rightly said, prices has been going down in that sector. That tells you that P/E ratio is dropping and nobody wants to operate in an environment that is going to make losses. My advice is clearly everybody should be cautious in playing in that sector, really.
But I guess maybe one of the standouts in that sector will be Oando. It's pretty diversified. So your thoughts on a company like that, though, given the fact that they are also exposed to the oil upstream sector, and we know that, we'll get to that in a bit, but the PIB is still a big issue for even operators in the upstream sector.
Yeah, the likes of Oando are actually getting it right because they have been able to integrate into virtually all the energy sector, really, the downstream, upstream, midstream, and all that. And that enables them to have kind of to be able to cushion whatever problems they have in any of the sectors, which is a very, very good business strategy.
Okay, I was just going to move quickly to the issue of the PIB. We know debate has started on the floor of the Nigerian of the National Assembly over the last week, and very interesting dynamics there. I think some people are not happy with the way it's currently constructed.
Yes, I think the argument that came up at the upper house when it was discussed, when it was debated, was the fact that there shouldn't be any payment to the community, which actually caused a whole lot of uproar from especially the senators from the Niger Delta region. Right. I want to believe that the issue is going to be looked at ultimately, objectively and critically, and what is good for the country and for the industry is going to be accepted and agreed at the end of the day by all the parties. Otherwise,
I was going to ask, are you confident that we're going to see this sorted in the next few months? Or do you think this is something that may drag for another year or so? We know the PIB has been on the table for well over 4 years now.
Well, it is hoped that it should be passed this year. But if we look at, just like you said, when we have been talking about this, it's been a long while. So If we continue in that trend, I don't see it happening this year. But if we really take it seriously, I think all the issues that border on degree areas can be resolved as quickly as possible if they make it a priority.